Alrighty. It is Wednesday night. It's 7 p.m. We did the countdown and we actually started the program before we clicked the countdown button. I think we're on it tonight. Uh, so, with that being said, I just want to kind of give folks a minute or two here to kind of float on in, give them at least a couple of seconds. And of course, while I do that, I am going to start with our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. And along with that, I do like to remind everybody to follow us on Instagram at SCNormal. Follow Vaughn at Vaughn Postema. And a reminder, I didn't put the link up there, but you can find it at South Carolina NORML on YouTube. And we ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Along with that, we do ask that you click that button that I shouldn't have. Please support our sponsors. Visit our website, scnormal.org. Find your way in through the pages to our sponsor page and support our sponsors. Also, if you'd like to be a sponsor the our podcast every week, we invite you to contact us through our contact page with the topic of sponsorship. So don't forget, we could really use your support.
Yes, we can.
All right. Let's see where we are here. Vaughn, what do you say? What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about tonight?
All right. Well, we're definitely going to talk about Lobby Day. Lobby Day is next week, and we are excited about it. That's jazz hands. I'm not sure if those are jazz hands or like scare hands.
I'm a little nervous, a little scared, but you know, it's kind of stage fright. I used to do acting as a kid, and you know,
Oh my God. We need
all
stories
you can
about this.
do. Oh yeah, I mean, imagine this: me as a teenager, mid-teens, wearing nothing but a pair of like green jockey shorts, playing the part of Adam on stage. Um,
This is not the image. This is not the image. It's not giving.
so you get a little stage fright from time to time. You just dive into it.
Very funny. Very funny. Yes, that is. Well, it's going to be great. I'm very excited about it. The whole team is. Shout out to the whole team. Really appreciate all the work that everybody's been putting into it, and it's going to be a great time. It's a great time for us to just, put our flag in the sand and say this is who we are. This is what we do, and this is why we represent the citizens of South Carolina. So, very excited to do that. I, we also will go through some of the bills that we'll be talking about during Lobby Day, which is also really exciting too, because there's a lot of elements that we have there for that are really going to lean into the community at large, and I think that that's something for us to really dig into on Lobby Day. So, and it's going to be great to see everybody. So that's a really exciting piece to it.
Definitely looking forward to seeing everybody that comes on out. We're hoping a lot of you are available to come on out next Wednesday, 9 a.m. in the first floor lobby of the South Carolina State House.
That's
All
right.
right, let's give some shout outs there, Vaughn.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Skeptic is in the room. What's up, Skeptic? Hey there, hi there. What's going on? Joey, it can't be a party without Joey. We already know this. Shout out to Joey. And then we've got Ina. This is who we are. That is right. You are doggone Skippy. That's who we are. I'm really excited. Lobby days too are really great ways and times for us um, to further, just as a group, like I said, saying who we are, why we're here, and it's another avenue for organizations to really help to control the narrative about who they are, right? And I think a lot of times when you're doing work like this, it's really easy for other groups to try to dictate what you stand for, why you do what you do. And this is our opportunity to go on record and publicly say, no, correction, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we do it. Scott, I can't hear you, but it looked good. Whatever it is that you're saying, it looks good.
I gotta agree with you. I definitely get tired of so many people trying to paint us with their brush. Paint us with that stereotype. And so this is our chance to stand up, speak out. So we do ask, of course, everybody that does come out to Lobby Day, please dress business appropriate. As much as I love to wear a tie-dye and peace signs and stuff, Lobby Day, our press conference is not the time for that. So yes, please dress business appropriate is, I guess, the way I will phrase it.
For a fact. So I think that's what, we're just going to go straight into Lobby Day. I did actually have like a cannabis headline, if you will. It's not necessarily a headline, but it is something that was brought to my attention. I wanted to make sure that I was able to talk about it. I just thought about this, Scott, so this is news to you as well. Actually, I got a call from Bob Chapman, and he was talking about the stamp tax for South Carolina. And have you heard of the stamp tax, Scott, or aware of the stamp tax? There is, I don't know if you're muted.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, beyond the 1937 Stamp Act.
Right. So you'll find this pretty interesting, and there's some things that I can share with you about this. But Bob was actually watching our show one day, like watching it on the repeat. So thank you, Bob. And he noticed when we were going over the information, he noticed the tax element, and there is there's a tax in South Carolina that essentially says, if you are a dealer, we need you to pay taxes on what it is that you're dealing. So there were a couple of stories on this, an article that was written back in 2020 in the Post and Courier, and I'll try to send that out to you guys if I can find that particular article. But it was resurfacing this and saying that since like 1993, there had been this tax that someone actually ran into. They actually went to court about it. For essentially, you have the person being arrested for say they got caught with pounds, things of that nature. They get arrested for that. They go through all the fees, they go through all the penalties, all the things, and then also a few months later, knock knock, there's Department of Revenue that's saying, oh, and also you owe us taxes on those pounds. So the reason why this is a little alarming is the fact that almost feels like South Carolina's kind of double dipping, right? Like on top of already making sure that you're either getting jail time or you have these fines. Also, by the way, we want taxes on what it is that you were doing. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. And what they were asking too at one point was for, and I straight up like dealers, that what they were trying to do was to get people to sign up with Department of Revenue to get these little stickers. It'd be like these little tax, like you buy, like it's like you're paying tax, and they'd send them to you for you to have. And so what Department of Revenue was instructed with was, once you gain the information, like you're not allowed to hold on to like the address of the person or the name of the person or things of that nature. Now, come on now, y'all. Now what that was quite the I got that information during like a whirlwind at my job. We were having a lot of things going on, and that was just kind of like a cherry on top of like, of course this exists in the state of South Carolina, and something that we will further jump into. I would love to have a show on this one probably within after lobby day, we'll do like a recap and things like that. But I can't wait to deep dive into that for y'all, because it actually is pretty funny. It's terrible, but it's actually pretty cool that this happened, and how it happened and how it still exists. So yeah, just a little nugget. That's my headline for today, and we'll deep dive more into that on a different show.
That sounds somewhat entertaining. Yeah, you'll have to kind of give me a little bit of
Oh yeah,
updates before our next show on that.
you're gonna
But
have a laugh. You're gonna laugh.
but I'm not surprised.
Right.
I'm not surprised that a government agency is going to say, you know, you did an illegal act, but you still have to pay the taxes on the revenue that you made from that.
Right.
I think the federal government does that. Doesn't the IRS do that?
I,
Uh,
I think so. I think
I,
so.
I think so. So yeah, I'm not surprised that South Carolina went, yeah,
Yeah.
let's tax their criminal behavior and see if they admit to it.
I mean, I just remarkable, just remarkable. So by the time you think about it, yeah, can't wait to bring that up. So thanks again to Bob for kind of raising the flag on that. And yeah, very interesting indeed. So, but yeah, lobby day. So just to also kind of jump in a little bit more with what Scott is talking about. My God, there's something in my lobby day next week. We're also still looking, always welcoming volunteers as well to help with a variety of things, whether it's helping people to get to their legislators. It's last year. Last year, I can remember, man, I remember running around a lot. Well, not running around too much, but just giving a speech and then taking constituents to see their representatives, which I think is a really, it feels like an honor to just go in and serve as that kind of liaison, or helping people to feel comfortable speaking with their legislators. And so that's something that we also could use some, always use extra hands for that. I think another thing too that's going to be cool this year is that we're going to be talking, we're going to take a time that whoever is there, especially after we've met with legislators, that we'll actually be able to sit down and kind of talk a little bit more about what our plans are for NORML for this year. We have some strategies that we're also looking at and thinking about, and we want to make sure that everybody has a good idea of what they can expect from us this year, which is actually a lot of rad stuff, a lot of amazing things. I personally think, like, I'm proud of all the things we've already brainstormed with the team, but you'll see us moving and shaking a lot this year. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to be a part of that at every step of the way. So this would be the time. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell the people that you know that want to see marijuana laws reformed in the state of South Carolina. We're going to have plenty of opportunities throughout the year, and a lot of fun things to look forward to. But we need you. We need you. We need you as a member. We need you as a volunteer. We just need you as a concerned citizen to rally up with us with the various things that we've got going on. So lobby day is going to be a great way to hear some of that stuff, get a little sneak peek, get a little taste, and to further network and connect. Later on that night, we'll still do cannabis conversation. So I expect to see everybody still at the chat. Even if you are not in Columbia with us, that is okay, because you can definitely, my dog has entered the room, by the way. He's very happy to see me. But this is going to be a great opportunity for us to have extended conversations about lobby day. We can recap lobby day. And I'm also working on, fingers crossed, some maybe we'll have some guests during that time as well. We're looking at it to be an extended show. And Scott, don't start sweating now. But no, we'll have plenty of time to further talk through that. So that's kind of the overarching too about lobby day. Wanted to add in those details too before we kind of got into some of the bills and things that we'll focus on. But I think I pretty much covered the rest of those details. Scott, anything else?
Oh, hold it. I did turn it on already. um, yeah, I definitely want to touch on. I think we're gonna have a good conversation tonight. One thing I did want to touch on real quick. It is not going to be our focus on Lobby Day. Will be the medical movement that's going on. Our focus on Lobby Day will be very specific to harm reduction through decriminalization of cannabis, simple possession of cannabis. Um, we know there's already two medical bills that have been proposed at the state level. A third one, the companion bill to the House version of the Compassionate Care Act, to be uh, introduced any day now. We're expecting it today, tomorrow. I did a search right before we finished, but I don't know how quickly they update the state's website. But that is will not really be our focus. I just wanted to sort of share that information with you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott, because we do want to focus on a big part of what we want to focus on is that harm reduction. And harm reduction, we would love to see that come to fruition through decriminalization, some of the things we talk about, to civil asset forfeiture, things of that nature. And so there's a lot of really interesting things, descheduling. There's a lot of interesting things that are available for us to kind of peruse. So it'll be really great for us to be able to focus on those elements. So that's something too that we'll have. We usually have one cheaters and things of that nature. And so it's really valuable. I will say this too, to be clear, that it is very valuable for us to know anything the light touches that has to do with marijuana or law reform. It is important for us to know that it exists and that it is out there. And I do encourage you to still read up, even though it won't be our focus for Lobby Day. Please make sure that you're reading up on um, anything about medical marijuana. Still very relevant information for you to know and be aware of. And that's why, like Scott said, we're going to keep our focus on, especially focusing on things that we feel like are going to touch more of the community at large. I think that that's something that deserves some spotlight, things that are going to be able to hit everyday citizens in a variety of ways. So that's another reason
That
why we'll be focusing on decrim too.
that's absolutely our rationale about behind this. Is we really believe decrim will be much more beneficial to our communities at large. Um, I mean, yes, there's a lot of patients that can use cannabis, but we feel that the bills that we're seeing move forward in South Carolina are so very restrictive, and we see from other states the sign on for we see the racial disparity in the sign on for medical cards in other states. So we want to kind of just let that pot simmer as it will and focus on something that we believe will be much more beneficial to our communities at large. And that is decrim of simple possession of, an ounce or less here in South Carolina.
Yeah, very, very excited to dig into those two. And I think that it's it's exciting to see these conversations being had in South Carolina, right? Uh, For decriminalization to be something that we see kind of present, I think that that's awesome. Even the conversation, there are people who I have these conversations all the time, um, and I talk about this I think frequently on this show, where there are a lot of people who have um, the morale is low a lot of times about whether or not we will see legalization within South Carolina. And I think that the more that we stay focused on just doing something that's going to be good for our communities, I think that the more we stay focused on that prize, then that transcends anything like any doubt about like a like legalization or things of that nature. Let's just stay focused on doing something that's going to benefit our communities, because that's really what this is about, and benefiting people to have the same opportunities across the board. I think if we switch our perspective to that, and that's what I try to encourage people to do, say, instead of just thinking about just legalization, think about why for legalization. Think about why it is that people why people would benefit from a decriminalization bill or things of that nature. It's more than just legalizing and making sure that we just legalize as soon as we can. It is especially on kind of the recreational front. There hasn't been a lot of talks about recreational, but just having that kind of perspective that we want to be community first, right? And thinking about what people are going through on a daily basis and how can we help people. I think that's a big part of who we are as SC Normal, that on top of reforming marijuana laws, I also aim, and I know the rest of the team also aims for this too, to help people navigate through the laws that have to do with marijuana, right? A lot of times we're in positions where we may not even know fully or feel confident in what the law is, which is another reason why we want to take the time to kind of go through the bills that we'll be talking about. And that in itself is a part of not just reforming laws, but reforming the way that we perceive the law, or how we perceive, whether we're powerless or something of that nature. No, we've got to reform more than just the law, reform our mindset. And that's what I know that we aim to do: empower people, make sure people have the information that they need, and that they feel confident in knowing, no, these are my rights. This is what this is. This is how we're going to move forward. So that's my soapbox for today. Stay empowered. And we'll go into some of the bills. Scott, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just going to want to go back here real quick to comments. Josh earlier, and Josh has been commenting here for a little bit. Earlier says, and we need you, when we were talking about how we need folks out there to support us.
Right.
Nancy saying, what up, cuz? So, Nancy, what up?
It sounded real cool when you said that,
Scott. Josh again, I was going to get up and go to the rally, but I got high. Of course, he follows that with, haha, don't forget. And I want to remind y'all, sativa in the morning, sativa in the streets. It's the indica that's for the sheets. So, do your sativa in the morning. You won't forget to get to that rally. He also says he will be medicated, but we don't know that for certain. Also, question: why can I grow my own tomatoes in South Carolina, but I can't grow organic therapeutic cannabis? Always right on top of us with that. Power to the people.
Power to the people, for sure.
Throws me back to my early days. I appreciate that.
We gotta hear those stories one day. I also have another comment. Cody is watching right now. I appreciate you listening into the conversation. He wanted to also mention that even with the medical bill, it's still possible for your county to adopt resolutions to not allow it within your county. So we need to be proactive in encouraging city and county council members to adopt resolutions that will encourage and allow medical dispensaries in their districts. And that's another reminder, which is another good space for this, is that, and you're going to see us talk about this a lot this year in general, is having those relationships on a county level, on a local level, right? Scott talks about this a lot in terms of what it is that, what our restrictions are in terms of like having like write-ins and things of that nature, or the process that it takes to really get like a bill in play in the state of South Carolina, how it's a little bit different from a lot of other states, right? And so it's important for us to be activated within our county, activated within our local space. And that's a good point that Cody brings up, because even with something like the medical bill, for instance, like if that's something that you support, then it's still relative to your, it's still valuable for you to have those conversations with your county people and people who are leaders within that space. And the same can be said for decriminalization. Like, so that's all of this element is very important for us to have that. So thanks for that.
Yes, it's kind of amazing how many small towns can kind of turn into little dictatorships if the people don't stay involved and get involved with their county and city their city councils, especially town and city councils. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. Vaughn and I personally here in the Charleston area, getting out there and encouraging you all to do the same as well in your town. Get out, start participating in town and city council and county council meetings. Getting up and speaking when the public's allowed to speak, and voice your opinion that you want to see decrim in your area.
Right.
You think that people shouldn't go to prison for marijuana, especially simple possession. It gives us that other avenue that we wouldn't have otherwise. I mean, we can't go for recreational legalization at the local level. We can't do a lot of things. We can't change the the crime. We can only really affect the penalty phase of that. So while we have a decrim bill at the state level with H 3561, which we'll talk about briefly, across the aisle co-sponsored bill, I think will really send a strong message to our state legislators if we can start getting our city and town councils to pass decrim ordinances in your area.
For sure.
There's my rant.
Yeah, we love a good rant. We love a good rant, and I think we got some more. We've got what Josh says. If we can get SLED and Leo out the way, the politicians will go for it. I think cash crop. SLED definitely is a huge motivator in these conversations about cannabis. And I'm not just talking about the show, talking about statewide. SLED definitely has kind of a heavy hand in that, even when it comes to like funding for a lot of these municipalities. It's a thing. SLED's influence is a thing.
And here's a little nugget for you in case you didn't know. SLED is in charge of, I guess, permitting or licensing head shops. And if you go into a head shop, there's a list of words that you're not allowed to say. And if you say them, I mean, some of the owners or management of these stores get pretty uptight, will throw you out. You can't say that here, because if there happens to be a SLED agent or something in the area and they hear them allowing that vernacular in their shop, they could, I guess people are afraid they're going to get shut down. Now, mind you, these are people that are peripherally in the cannabis business by selling paraphernalia, tobacco papers, that kind of thing. It's all for tobacco use. So that's why I say peripherally, because I'm going to say walking that fine line, playing that game. Mm-hmm. And again, these are people and places that I think should be supporting us vocally, rallying behind us, being our sponsors, and yet their hands are sort of tied by law enforcement because they won't be allowed to put our brochure in their shop because our brochure has the word marijuana in it. So, it's sort of, I guess, frustrating would be a good word for it, how law enforcement and legislation has really hogtied activists in this particular focus.
Yeah, that's a great point, Scott, and I think that it just really speaks to kind of what, I don't know, the like we're saying, just kind of who holds a lot of the cards in South Carolina, especially when it comes to this. SLED is a big player, and that's another reason why it's also valuable to. Well, I would say I know we had kind of the Attorney General in our last voting
Last session?
session, right? But I don't think anyone was running against, or so that's another thing too, is that fingers crossed that someone will rise from the depths. And
Yes.
you know
I mean, I don't know how many years it's been since uh, a, a more independent, uh, I guess is the word I'm looking for, attorney general has been elected in this state. I found it interesting, as we were talking about earlier, Mia McLeod stepping down from the Democratic Party and
yeah,
I guess switching to independent. And what I noted when she was talking about that, she said there has not been a Democratic governor elected in this state in over 20 years. There hasn't been an independent ever, but that's besides the point.
yeah,
But yeah, just the fact that there hasn't been one, I'm almost feeling a little bad that at least somebody doesn't try to run against Alan Wilson, our sitting state attorney general. Come on, somebody try. Please.
yeah. It says, I think that says a lot too. I think that says a lot too. I mean, it feels like oftentimes in South Carolina we're up against more than just simply voting for someone. It's got deeper roots into it. It's got deeper, there's deeper clause, deeper clause. And you can make the argument across the board for politics in general. I'm talking about here in South Carolina, where it is incredibly conservative, and a lot of times, that's going to dictate a lot of what gets through and what doesn't get through, and also what it looks like. So yeah, those are thinkings. um yep, that's the one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This made me laugh. But in South Carolina, you get a crack pipe in every gas station. I'm thinking, hang on, wasn't there something about a little glass vial with a rose in it? Well, he answered that question down here for me. I remember my mom asking.
Right. These are the fine lines. These are the fine these are the fine lines we're talking about. And yes, Ina's on point. Primitive thinking government, it feels very primitive. It doesn't feel, it's not very community forward. I feel like it goes under the guise of like keeping a community safe, because it's like we're going to keep drugs off the streets. But it's there's so much more to keeping a community safe. um, Arming people with information, we say this all the time: harm reduction is also helping to keep a community actively safe. Not demonizing people who utilize um, drugs, things like that. I mean, that doesn't help a community. It does not. That doesn't help a community at all. And especially when we're talking about marijuana in 20 plus states that have already have some form of either legalization or whatever it may be. Our community is very important, and it just really is a problem for community members to constantly be getting the brunt of this prohibition. The problem.
And there's where I think some of our legislators have missed the mark because they forget about our community. They start painting people with a stereotype picture. I mean, listening to sitting senators during the debate on the medical bill last year referring to cannabis consumers as Cheech and Chongers um,
Yeah,
just was so frustrating. It's like, hold it, who are we electing to sit and represent us? Is this the
yeah,
representation that we really want? Somebody that's going to use some comedy stereotype, comedy characters that have turned into a stereotype,
yeah,
and paint the entire cannabis consuming public as that. Um, when there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's teachers, there's people in all walks of life that consume cannabis. They
Yeah,
walk among us, and most of us wouldn't know the difference. Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point in itself. That's a good point in itself. I think that missing the mark is I think that's good. That's good words right there. Those are good words. I find it troubling as well to just categorize cannabis users in general as cheech and chongers like that. That's really, especially when, it's really interesting too is that, especially when you have a state that, as conservative as South Carolina is, still had a medical bill on the floor. So clearly there are people who look at this as a medicinal element. So once again, where does the on and off switch, come into play that says, well, this person's a patient, this person is a Cheech and Chong, like, and I think that, what does that, does it mean that someone who doesn't utilize this for, you know they're not in the medicine category? Does that mean that they're now just these irresponsible folks that are just going to smoke all day and not do what needs to be done? It's just a very played out perception. um, and, I am hopeful for South Carolina, and I don't think that's a misguided hope. Like, oddly enough, strangely enough, like, I am hopeful for South Carolina. And I think that the more equipped and informed that the citizens become, I think that they will speak to this. They will speak to the sense that it makes or doesn't make in a lot of cases with some of the legislators. So that's what we're here for,
so,
the people.
where do we want to start? Do we want to talk about that federal bill we were talking about that has not been submitted yet?
Yeah, let's go for that. Let's go for that. I think I have well, it hasn't been submitted yet, so it's not on my bill track.
The States Reform Act, federal level. Nancy Mace. Federal bills have not. No. I fib. One bill relating to marijuana has been filed at the federal level
Yeah.
by the GOP, and it has to do with Second Amendment rights of cannabis users, cannabis consumers. So there has been a marijuana bill filed in the 118th U.S. Congress, and that's the one so far. We're still kind of watching for what's going to happen with Bill Nancy's Reform Act is become soon, and we're hoping, that it comes out real soon. We've invited Nancy to speak next week at our press conference. Um, I will be following up with that tomorrow. I'm hoping that she will be able to come and talk about her plans with the State Reform Act. Um, I don't know if she will or not. Her office told me that she was scheduled to be in D.C. that day, but they also said she may see this and see the subject matter, and she may fly down and participate. So I'm crossing my fingers because I'd love to have Nancy come and talk about descheduling at the federal level while we're at the state house. I think that would be awesome.
Be pretty cool.
Next, in that same kind of category, but at the state level, would be Senator Mia McLeod and Senate
Yeah.
Bill 211, which is a deschedule bill at the South Carolina state level. Um, so,
So,
you've got that one up there?
yep. Yep, I've got this one up here. Descheduling to remove marijuana from Schedule 1. So making some amendments in that way. Um, so as to provide that the penalties do apply to the possession of marijuana by amendment. So it's amending, descheduling. I actually am really excited when I when I see this one. And I know Mia McLeod is usually this is not her first time doing this right here. So really excited to see this. Just the fact that it exists excites me. Yes, that's right. That's even the pure existence is is a big deal to me. Let me put this information. I've got an official document right here. Let me get this link in here for y'all. Drop that in the comments for everybody. Okay, there we go. Yes, so Mia McLeod. The biggest thing here is that, and I think this one it really is kind of like the meatiest. I would argue, because it's talking about that descheduling. It talks about providing licenses for marijuana cultivators, product manufacturers, retailers, to provide the regulatory framework for the operation of to provide that counties and municipalities may prohibit within their jurisdiction the operation of marijuana cultivators, product manufacturers, and marijuana retailers. That goes back to what we were talking about being involved on a county level, because this is something that even, and that's something for us to remember too, is that even though something can get passed, that counties still have that power. They still have, there's power within the counties, power within these municipalities, to still say no. This also provides restrictions on product labeling and advertising, and to provide penalties for violations, to pardon convictions of crimes decriminalized by the provisions in this act. I'm going to read that again. To pardon convictions of crimes decriminalized by the provisions in this act, and to define necessary terms. So that is S0211, Mia McLeod. And like I said, I feel like it's one of the meatiest because of the fact that it has, I mean, look at that. Pardon convictions of crimes decriminalized, talking about retailers. Geez, I tell you, retailer, I mean, you don't see a lot of conversations about retailers. Sometimes it feels like, even in the hemp industry, it feels like uh, retailers are they, no one wants to touch them with a 6-foot pole, right? They're just like, no, don't want to have conversations about retailing hemp products or things like that. And so it's nice to see retail in this space, because you know why it's exciting, because yes, I believe in the small business owner. And even in the cannabis industry at large, I believe in small business. And that has been a conversation in itself about, is big business ruining chances for people who want to get in on the cannabis industry, within the cannabis industry on like a smaller scale. So I was excited to see this as well. Any other comments, Scott?
Oh, my mic is on. Look at that. No, I agree. I mean, descheduling at the state level would be absolutely ideal. Um, we've seen this bill before. This is a new version of it, but this bill has been around last session. You'll be seeing, again, as I probably mentioned a week or so ago, you will be seeing action alert coming out on this particular bill, because this is one we really want you to let your legislators know that you'd like to see it move forward, see it get a committee hearing, see if we can get it to the Senate floor. Anyway, yes, very good bill, but yeah, let's kind of move along. I think the next one we're probably going to want to talk about would be the state level decrim, H3561. And you're going to bring that one up. Where do I have that one? Oh, I got an error on that. Look at that. Okay, 3561. There we go. I'm going to share the link to this bill.
I've been muted this whole time. Okay, so.
Oh, were you talking to me?
I've got it pulled up.
Thank you.
I was saying that shout out to Scott for putting me on to Bill Track 50. It is changing my life. So I wanted to say the state website is definitely always going to be like kind of the go-to to make sure that you're as accurate as possible. But Bill Track 50 is pretty cool. So shout out to that. But yes, I've got it up here for you, and I was just talking and talking, and I was like, why is Scott not acknowledging what I'm saying?
What did you say? What was that?
Woo! All right, here we are. 3561 Decrim. Scott, do you want to dig in, or you want me to continue?
A bill amending the South Carolina Code of Law by amending sections 44-53-370, 44-53-375, and 44-53-450, all relating to controlled substances offenses and penalties so as to decriminalize possession of 28 grams or 1 ounce or less of marijuana or 10 grams or less of hashish, and authorize law enforcement to issue a civil citation for possession of that same quantity of marijuana or hashish. Basically, give you a ticket, a civil citation. Um, Continued to decrease penalties for first offense possession of less than 1 gram of methamphetamine or cocaine base, and require completion of a drug treatment or rehabilitation program as part of the sentence, and to require the courts to place persons on probation who are guilty of a first offense possession of certain controlled substances.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, I like.
I'm not sure why that is included in a decrim bill for cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
um, but they are looking to also, in this particular bill, decrease the penalties for first offense of less than a gram of meth or cocaine. Um, and I'm assuming that these drug treatment or rehabilitation programs be part of the sentence of those drugs, not the marijuana or hashish. But
Mm-hmm.
that's hard to read after that semicolon there. Uh, I don't know what applies to the top and what doesn't. But
Oh, to decrease penalties.
there,
Yeah.
if I recall, this was actually in this bill last year, and this was my last session, and this was kind of my complaint with the bill was partnering it with methamphetamine and cocaine products.
Mm-hmm.
Um, why? When you look at the marijuana laws of the state of South Carolina, cocaine and methamphetamine are not tied to that simple possession of marijuana. So
Mm-hmm.
why are they tying it to it in this decrim bill? Make the meth and cocaine its own separate bill. That would be my opinion. I think it would have a much better chance of passing. Um, on the flip side of that, I don't disagree with reducing the penalties for less
Mm-hmm.
than a gram of meth or cocaine, but I think that should again be its own separate bill.
Yeah, I think that there is, when you take the steps of not treating people like criminals for drug use, this definitely aligns in that space, and it is something that is a bigger conversation for the state of South Carolina and other states as well. I can see your point too about separating the two, because there's always, the more that's involved in a bill, the more that there's opportunity for it to be slashed and such. But even if this is what's coming to, like if there's suggested amendments and things of that nature, then I mean, that still can be talked through during that time. Like if it needs to be pared down and things of that nature, then eliminate some elements. I mean, we saw it happen with the Compassionate Care Act last year. Um, well, we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of
Yeah,
that
to
Dyson.
be quite honest with you, I would really rather see this a bill for marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
than marijuana and methamphetamine and cocaine base.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would have a much better chance of passing. Um, and this is why we need to, and I'll reiterate from earlier, why we need to attack this at the city and county and town level, the local municipal level, where we can attack just the penalty phase of the marijuana possession laws.
Right.
We can attack just the penalty phase of the cocaine and methamphetamine, and I'm not sure where LSD and psilocybin fall into some of those categories.
Yeah.
What laws they're covered by, but be able to address them individually, one at a time, on their own merits.
Yeah.
Because the same things kind of apply. It's still harm reduction. If you're arrested for marijuana or more substantial substances, you're still going to have that record following you around saying you have a drug arrest.
Right.
And so now you're going to have those residual consequences, those roadblocks continually thrown in your way for years to come.
Right. Courtney says meth and cocaine aren't also medicinal. And that's another good point too, and leans into the point that you were making as well, Scott. And I mean, just the grouping would make more sense.
Well, it depends on how you look at it too. I mean, meth, Adderall, pretty close.
Things are pretty.
Cocaine, my dentist. Well, maybe not my dentist, but it's been known to work in dentistry, local anesthetic. These things are actually given more medical, especially on the Controlled Substances Act schedule. They're given more medicinal value than cannabis.
Very good point.
I know where she's coming from. They're not like real good for you medicines.
It reminds me of fentanyl, right? And how fentanyl is used in in hospitals, and that is so these are definitely bigger conversations, but which is another reason why there is the argument there to not criminalize people for things. Very important to not criminalize people. This is that arbitrary line a lot of times that says, well, this is what it means to be this is medicinal and then this is not medicinal. And how that's we are dictating those lines, and I think that's something that needs to be I think
people that are not medical professionals are making these assumptions and calling them facts, and that's where the problem arises.
And once again, that harm reduction piece too, right? Because it's because these things are utilized in places where, like in medical settings or things of that nature, even more we should have that kind of space of saying, okay, let's make sure it's safe for people, make sure people are in safe capacities when it comes to this. Now, once again, meth, cocaine, these elements right here, definitely they need attention. They need attention. And so to see it in here, I'm not surprised to see it included in this conversation about marijuana, though, because of what we're trying to accomplish with marijuana and even normalizing that. We're seeing this across the country too, of just like people tackling drugs in general and really trying to eradicate this war on drugs idea, and how do we progress, what's a progressive movement from that. So would really love to hear Ivory Thigpen and Jordan Pace talk about this. That I think that would be a really interesting conversation right there. So but it's 7:55 already, so
so we're going to take a minute or two here to talk real quick then about Senate Bill 41. Oh, look at that. She's on top of it. This is a civil asset forfeiture bill, and basically you've got to scroll down to section 17-32-40, part 2A, until you finally get to what we're talking about. I don't know if that's on your particular list. Here, I'll share the. I'll share the. Excuse me, folks. Share the State House link. But basically, what this one is doing is saying a law enforcement agency may not seize cash of $500 or less, or property or other assets of a value of less than $2,500. In addition, cash in any amount may not be seized solely incident to an arrest for possession of 28 grams or 1 ounce or less of marijuana, simple possession of marijuana, pursuant to section 44-53-370. So this, to me, is, yep, just, there you see it. There you go.
We'll zoom in at you.
Zoom in on that. What I talk about sometimes is, and I don't remember who it was, but it was an interview with, I believe, a union rep for law enforcement, and I don't know which office segment, strain of law enforcement, strains of law enforcement.
Strains of law enforcement. Oh my God. The best thing I've heard.
Yes. So I don't know what strain of law enforcement this union rep was representing.
Indica law enforcement. Wow.
But I'm sorry, now I'm laughing. But basically, he was talking about the average asset amount seized was, like, I believe, under $1,000. Civil asset forfeiture laws in the United States, especially federal level, were first implemented, in the war on drugs to try and stop these cartels and these drug kingpins. It didn't like me sharing that link to somewhere. Anyway, and not to go after, somebody on the street who had a couple of, a little bit of weed on them, less than an ounce, maybe split into 4 different bags, but still less than an ounce. Or 28 little 1 gram bags for all I care. It's still, an ounce or less. It wasn't to go after stealing their jewelry, their cars, their cash, which when you see this for, small amounts, 80%, I believe was the number, 80% of the seizures were for $1,000 or less. These are not drug kingpins that they're implementing these laws against. These are everyday citizens like you and I who might have some cannabis on them, more than their local law enforcement thinks they should have. Maybe you just got a new bag and you still had some of your old bag. Now they're going to say you've got multiple bags, so now you're distributing it. You have it divided up for distribution. The games they play with your life are not pretty. Now, where was I going with this?
Powerful statement.
Civil asset forfeiture. And with this, civil asset forfeiture, they'll do it without charging you with a crime. They might not have enough evidence to charge you with the crime. They thought they smelled some marijuana, and because they thought they smelled some marijuana, they're going to seize your assets because they think your assets came from the sale of said fictional marijuana. So they don't even have to charge you with a crime to seize your assets. So, again, harm reduction is the goal. Civil asset forfeiture falls under that same umbrella. So that will also be one of the subjects that we may touch on. We like this Senate bill because it is introduced by a Republican. Republicans are in control of our House and our Senate. So I feel it's important that we have sponsors or at least co-sponsors on legislation that includes members of the controlling party. So there is that. All right. Let me go back over to this other little clicker button here. And
I just want to I was laughing at the strains of
strains of law enforcement. There's so many different varieties, the alphabet soup ones, and SLED falls into the alphabet soup because that's just an acronym. But yeah. Anyway, folks, let's go ahead and hit up this stuff real quick as we kind of wrap up tonight, because it is already 8 o'clock, and we don't want to keep you away from your family and loved ones. So don't forget Lobby Day next Wednesday at 9 a.m. in the first floor lobby of the South Carolina State House in Columbia, South Carolina. I understand that we actually had another participant register and sign up today.
Yay.
So we're probably kind of getting near the deadline of sign up for talking with your legislators. Kristen, our deputy director, is feverishly trying to contact these legislative offices, trying to get appointments scheduled. There's one, I believe we may end up scheduling a teleconference on the telephone with a legislator while they're commuting into work for the day. We'll do what it takes to try and connect you with your legislator and get you to let them know your opinion on marijuana law reform. So don't forget, next Wednesday, the 25th, I'm getting a little bit...
You're getting excited.
A little bit excited, I guess is the word for it. Yes.
It's good. Yes, he does.
Get excited. Let me have another. What is he drinking in that bottle there anyway?
It's exciting. We're gonna have a great time next week. It's gonna be so cool.
We are gonna have a great time. Even if you can't make it out to talk to your legislators, if you can make it out, we have a bunch of these beautiful signs that we're gonna ask you to hold up behind us for media, which. Vaughn, we're going to kind of talk about that. I will probably be sending out similar invite as I used last year to our media list. And if there's a couple of sources you want me to add to that, we need to kind of connect on that in the next day or so. Next, last but not least, I do also want to follow up with, we are on our, still in the middle of our 2023 membership drive. It is still on. If you join our members as a 2023 member now, you get some free bonus gifts. You get the book, you get the Constitution, you get 5 of the cool little stickers, you get little leaf pin and a button. Those are all just the extras. And then you're entered into the drawing for Dope Man, the board game. I've included a sploof into that. Don't offend your friends and neighbors with the smell of your smoke. Filter it with a sploof and a wonderful $100 certificate from Healing Leaf Health and Wellness. So don't forget, you'll be in the drawing for all those fun little goodies as well. Don't forget, visit our website. At the top, you'll find a little button to click, and hopefully you will help support South Carolina NORML with your membership dues.
Scott, he's on fire, man.
I don't know. What else we got for him, Vaughn? Anything else tonight?
That's it. Thanks so much, as always. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate being able to speak with you all and have a good time. Thanks for everybody that's viewing YouTube, Facebook, and all the things. Until next time, y'all, we out.
We will be here, next Wednesday night for the wrap-up of our press conference and lobby day. We'll let you know how wonderful it was. Positive thinking, positive thinking, positive thinking. But yeah, we do plan on being back for that next week. I'm not sure where I will be, but I expect to be right back here at my desk. I think I can make it back in plenty of time. That's it for tonight, folks. Don't forget, every Wednesday, 7 p.m., but next Wednesday, 9 a.m. at the State House. Last comments coming in from Ina. Peace and love, everybody. Have a good night. Talk to you next week. Bye.